exists to give every spoon a better breakfast, because mornings can really make a difference. Their granola has been carefully prepared in small batches to taste the best. They don't cut corners, there is no added nasties, just the tastiest and crunchiest granola out there. Appearing on Dragon's Den in 2014, they walked away with £50,000 investment in equal parts from Deborah Meaden and Peter Jones for a 30% equity stake. Their success on the BBC TV programme enabled them to further develop their products and launch into large retailers, propelling the business forward. Hello and welcome back to another episode of Getting to Grow. I am so excited to have Annie, co-founder of the delicious Spoon cereal, with us here today, and the reason this one is so close to my heart. So backstory of me a bit and how I even got into FMCG and food was I left university and I was desperate to get into the food industry, and I was thinking of loads of different ways I can get in touch with brands, and I must have sent about upwards of 50 applications to, so many brands, and Spoon were the only brand that got back to me, and I went in for an interview. And it's funny, I kind of remember it, but I kind of don't remember it, so I'm really interested to hear, now we're way past it and you can give me honest feedback. My first ever interview and how I was with food, and I was just so hungry to work in the industry, and I was like, someone just hire me. So actually this podcast came off the back of working at Spoon, and then obviously now I work at Coconut, but yeah, it was Spoon that gave me my first entry in, so very happy to have Annie on the podcast.
Thank you very much for having me.
No, you're so welcome. So yeah, when I, just very quickly, because I'm interested, because we haven't probably ever caught up about it, but when I came in, in those really early days, what was it like? Yeah, what was I like? I'm really interested to know. I kind of remember, but kind of don't.
Yeah, I mean, that time is all a bit of a kind of hazy blur to me as well. But I remember you coming in, because it wasn't myself that actually did the kind of screening, because we had someone working in the business.
Yes, yeah.
Basically, I think you were speaking to him directly.
Yeah, on LinkedIn.
It was his job to kind of do some screening for us, and then he came to us and said, I've got a few people who are going to come in and we'll do an interview. And I just remember you walking in, and I think we were all just in a bit of shock when you walked out, because we were like, what is this powerhouse? Amazing. It was amazing.
Yeah, it was good fun.
And you were really kind of what we needed, to be honest, because we didn't really have we had zero sales team, and so you really helped us kind of get onto the map in terms of kind of all the independent listings.
The indie trade.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, because without you, I
remember as well you doing a presentation to us. I don't know if this was part of the interview, but you had done a dissertation at university on influencers and health and wellness. I can't remember the exact title now, but I remember thinking
it was
that
to
was
investigate how the influence of Instagram and how influencers were influencing female millennials' eating habits.
That's it.
Yeah. And it got so much traction, and it got published.
It was good.
Yeah, it was, because it was the first real piece of
ahead of its time.
So ahead of its time.
Yeah.
It was very much all that stuff was hugely in its infancy.
Yeah.
And it hadn't really health and wellness was very early on, and it was still such an important part of people's lives, but it didn't have. Honestly, I could count 5 brands. It was Spoon, Lucy B, Joe Wicks was so early. He'd just done his first throwing his rice in the microwave. We are talking ages ago. There was a nut butter brand, I think they were called Mindful Bites or something along those lines, and that's probably genuinely all I really remember. Oh, and Primal Pantry, those bars.
Yeah.
They were and Deliciously Ella was sort of a thing, her protein balls.
Okay, yes.
So none of the brands that I've had on this podcast were alive.
Yeah.
So it was so early,
Yeah, that's really interesting, because I think it's quite interesting how when we launched, I think we were very lucky with our timing, in terms of it was just starting out. That whole health and wellness scene was just kind of bubbling.
Yeah.
And so I think we captured that kind of zeitgeist at the right time.
Massively, yeah.
Because now obviously there's a squillion other granola brands.
I know,
on the
it's
market.
crazy, isn't it? But actually there's a lot of like, there's a big educational piece around like granola in and generally, because it's like, it has quite a bad rep of being like quite high sugar, whereas like you guys definitely aren't. And that was the whole thing, which is why I loved working with you. So I was like, I could actually live and breathe what I'm selling because I believed in it.
Yeah.
But tell me what you were doing before Spoon, and then like the lead up to Spoon and how Spoon became an idea.
Sure. So I was working in advertising straight out of uni. I have zero experience in food and drink. I just did graphic design at university. And yeah, I was a creative in the advertising world. And it was then that I had the idea for Spoon. And it's probably good to note that we didn't launch Spoon the typical way that you would launch a brand. It's not like the textbook way. In that, but by that I mean sort of coming up with a product or service concept, like developing it, going to a product developer to create the product, getting packaging right, getting the branding right, getting some investment, maybe doing some kind of market research, then launching into retail. That was not kind of the typical thing that we did, and that normally would take like 2 or 3 years for a successful brand. We fell into what we now have on the supermarket shelves very organically. The original idea was to actually have a more of a kind of food service offering. So Spoon is really kind of born from just like a passion of mine. I just love cereal basically. I grew up eating all the crap stuff.
It's so good.
I used to go into school with like bags of I would eat it dried straight out the pack, like have it as my like break time snack as a kid, and then at university, like I used to buy all the kind of like what I thought was healthy, like mueslis and bran flakes and all that kind of stuff, and sort of eat it by the bucket load. And so, yeah, it's when I was working in advertising. I was working in Soho at the time, and I was also seeing a lot of kind of cool street food vendors. On my lunch break sort of thing, popping up, lots of it was like the pop-up scene as well. The food scene was like really booming, people doing really creative, fun things, and also kind of focusing on like better quality offering than kind of, you know, like a Mackie D's or a prep like sickly sweet granola pot.
Yeah.
And it was more geared around lunch, so I felt like there was kind of a gap in the market for someone to do something that was exciting around breakfast. And so that was kind of like the inspiration to build a brand that was kind of basically making that occasion better and more exciting for people. And so the original idea was to have go into food service and essentially, you know, there's quite a few out there now, but like the chain, was it Toast, that do like the salads? Build your own salads, kind of like that, but for breakfast.
Okay, so like,
having like a chain of like out of home sort of sites within London that are capturing people on their way to work, so that they could pick up a really delicious, healthy bowl of granola with all the fresh toppings. And so that's why we started out doing pop-ups. And we basically just kind of did that because we wanted to test the idea really, and that's how we started. We basically were doing that for the first 2 years. So we did all sorts. We went into kind of city banks. We went to food festivals. We went to music festivals. What else did we do? We went to train stations, and what that exercise did was allowed us to speak directly to our customers and get direct feedback, which was kind of invaluable. And what we found slowly was that actually the granola product that we were at the time making all by hand, at the very early stages we were making it in Johnny's flat, but then we progressed. We rented our own kitchen in Park Royal, and we were making it all in big kind of tray ovens, and we found that the kind of wholesale side of the business, so we were making it, packing it into 400-gram packs and selling it to local delis and shops, and had a little presence online as well. And that side of the business was kind of gaining a bit more traction. And so what happened next was I think it was in 2014, we went on to Dragon's Den, and that was really the turning point for us, because we'd kind of been just having a bit of fun up until that point. It was more of a kind of hobby, and we both had our own jobs as well on the side at the very beginning, so we're kind of managing it part-time. And it was when we went on Dragon's Den, we knew we had to have something that the Dragons would get behind, and we felt that the wholesale side would be that. So it kind of fast-tracked our decision-making, if you like, and we decided to park the idea of having our own bricks and mortar site, because it would require, we felt like we didn't have the right experience. It was really hard to find a site, and there would be a lot of investment required for that. So we pitched the wholesale side and the idea of having a range of granola products that we would then sell into retail. And we got investment off Peter Jones and Devon Meaden.
It's amazing.
So since then we've just been kind of growing year on year, and we've got a range of granolas, and we're stocked in all the top retailers. We've still got a long way to go in terms of getting into a few more, and we want to expand into new categories and new markets and stuff like that. But that's kind of how we came to be, basically. So it's a very long-winded story.
It's also like a long-winded journey.
Yeah.
Because like you went through lots of changes early on.
Yeah.
How you like differentiated from like your initial idea. Actually, no, we're going to do this now. But let's do wholesale. It's kind of all been quite like changing, which is, I guess, made you like learn so much in the process
so
as
much.
well.
Yeah, so much. And I think it's quite risky, because you can, if you've got an idea for a business, and then do a big investment round, if it goes wrong, then you're a bit screwed. Whereas we've kind of tried to grow it a little bit more sustainably, and kind of drip feed investment in as we go, and sort of try and do as much as we can in-house. And that's kind of like our approach, basically.
And how was the Dragon's Den experience? Like I'm interested to know what it's like working with Dragons, and the help that they actually do offer post investment, and how did that tell me about kind of that.
So Peter Jones kind of it was a partnership, obviously, so he sort of led the partnership, if you like, and we worked directly with his representative, and they were instrumental in kind of essentially just putting us on the map, really, because for me, I mean, at that time, when I think back to that time, it was all quite overwhelming. It felt really surreal, like the fact that you're essentially stood there in front of the Dragons, but also you've got 4 million viewers tuning into that program. So the hype you get around it is actually crazy. So the awareness was amazing, and and they were able to open up doors for us, and then other perks like we got a free office space because Peter Jones just had a spare one knocking about.
As you do.
So he was like, just you can use that, things like that.
Was that the one that I worked in Food Exchange?
No, that was before that. We were in Barron's Court.
Okay.
In West London. So but we since we no longer work with them anymore, so we since bought them out, and that's kind of
amazing. I can't imagine being on TV with 4 million eyes on you. You must be thinking about that when you're talking.
What do you mean? Sorry.
You must be thinking, gosh, there's so. Yes, I've got your 4 eyes on me, but I've also got 400 million.
I literally had I've never had that experience. It's that kind of out of body experience. I remember just walking through the. Because you're just if I say something wrong, and they're going to pick up on it, and they do. They have you walk in and there's all the cameras just hidden. There's just a black shadow. You don't see anything because they're all hidden behind some shadow.
Okay.
But they're all there, and there's all these cameras, and you've got microphones all over you, and they pick up any little twitch or anything like that. So, but luckily I think we got properly grilled at the beginning, but I think we came across okay.
Yeah.
Although it's quite a funny story, but when we went live, we were on Twitter, and it was all going crazy. And there was a comment that came through from someone, and it was "Who are these granola wankers?" #granola wankers. And we were oh no.
Oh no, you don't want that trending. No.
So yeah, it was overall it was
a good
very
experience.
positive. Yeah, very positive.
And how do you differentiate? Obviously, as you said, there's loads of mueslis, there's loads of granolas out there. You guys were quite like pioneering in the stage of like being a challenger brand. Like you were the first one to market. I think that really brought something quite special and unique because it was, 6-7 years ago.
Yeah.
Longer than that. So yeah, how do you differentiate yourself from like all this like rising competitors? And actually, the rising competitors of like. You are very different to cereal. Like cereal's doing a different job. It's a different category. You guys are granola. So how do you make sure that like you stick in your lane but stay what you stand for and offer that point of difference?
Yeah. So as we mentioned earlier, like at the beginning, we felt it was important because from doing all the kind of pop-ups, we were able to. The main bit of feedback we got from everyone that came to our stands was like, how much sugar, how much sugar, how much sugar. And so we knew
Interesting
straight
that
away.
even then they were aware of it.
No,
I think that's like a thing now.
I know. It's always then it was that was what we were understanding. And I think that's where we feel like we excel is like knowing the trends. So at that time we obviously saw this trend, and so we made the kind of conscious decision to just use the best possible ingredients we could. And only use kind of like we drastically reduced the amount of sugar in our granola. So at the time, the sugar content was sitting at like sort of, 18 grams per 100 plus, and ours was at like 10, 11-ish. And we felt that was like the sweet spot. But yeah, now the way we position ourselves is we believe to be like the tastiest granola on the market. And that's down to it's a very simple formula really. We just choose really good quality ingredients. They're a bit more expensive obviously, but that's gonna make your product taste better. We don't put any sort of fillers in there, so the oats we use are jumbo oats. We don't choose you could choose like a more highly processed oat, which is not as good for you. We use maple syrup, we use date syrup, we don't use any like granulated sugar or like glucose syrup. We don't put any emulsifiers, which you will find in a lot of granolas on the market. So that's with our cinnamon and pecan, which is our kind of best selling and our signature granola, which was the first ever recipe we ever made at home. It's won multiple Great Taste Awards, so we kind of have the kind of accreditation to prove that it is a good tasting product. And then in terms of kind of the health claims, all of the granolas are plant-based. We have something suitable for if you're gluten-free, so we have gluten-free oats. We make them with kind of whole foods. We've got a low sugar option as well that is also, so if you're looking to kind of boost your protein intake in the morning, we've added some plant-based protein to that SKU. So there's kind of something for everyone in terms of kind of what you need from a health perspective. But ultimately, we're all about taste, and I think it makes sense because it's kind of been geared by the feedback from our consumers. So we're very much led by our consumers, and the overriding feedback is whenever we ask, they always say we love you for your taste, we love you for your quality, and also your flavour, the range of flavours that you offer. So that's another thing, is we try to kind of have a bit more of a like creative spark to the offering. So whenever we're coming up with a flavour, we sort of look at, okay, what's on the market currently and how can we add our own little spoon spark to it. So for example, with the cinnamon and pecan, I think one of the reasons that did so well is the main, like I guess the kind of standard granola flavour is like a honey nut kind of flavour. And the cinnamon pecan is similar to that, but it's just a bit more exciting.
Yeah.
And to me, it's kind of like a bit American as well, because it's obviously cinnamon. That flavour is
pecan pie is like very
quite nostalgic.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's probably part of the reason that one does really well. And so ultimately we just all about taste, and that's kind of like our guiding principle, but not compromising on the health of the nation, because that's really important
to us as founders and as a brand, you have to nowadays, because we've got a global obesity crisis.
Yeah, it's like the biggest epidemic, isn't it, now?
Yeah.
And that actually leads really nicely on to my next question, which is like speaking about your like brand values as a brand. Like, what would you say are like your vision and like your mission as a brand?
So our mission. So do you mean values or mission? Or same
I'm
thing?
definitely not marketing. I'm asking those questions. I'm like,
So basically, we always talk about making breakfast better, and we have sort of 3 pillars to that. So that is making sure it's the tastiest first and foremost, better for you. So always considering like what is it that the consumer needs in terms of health, and looking at the trends and see how we can kind of capture those, the genuine ones, not the ones that we don't believe in. So for example, keto, not sure about that one. I don't know.
I just couldn't give up carbs.
Yeah, and also just zero fiber in your diet if you go keto. And we go on about keto, but
yeah, it's
that's something we've like purposely chosen not to.
Yeah.
To
how on earth would you make a keto granola? Oh, I guess it'd
it would
just be like coconut
pure
chips.
nuts and coconut chips.
Yeah,
which would also be a very expensive product.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's something we've steered away from. But yeah, always looking at trends, and so that's on the health side, and then trying to lean more into sustainability. So we talk about being better for the planet as well. So obviously we are a plant-based brand, and all our packaging is recyclable, and we're doing more to kind of work with directly with our ingredient suppliers, which is super important for kind of a more circular economy. So yeah, that's kind of the overarching like brand mission. And then in terms of values, we have some written down internally, and we have always just tried to take so Johnny and myself, what we believe in and what our values are as human beings. We just try and instill them into the business. So it's not really rocket science. It's just like doing things. I mean, we say to be creative, curious, principled and honest, and we try and do that across everything we do. So from the products to the way we kind of deal with people that we work with, all the stakeholders that we work with, and how we like to run the business.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And tell me about like your first retailer listing and how that came about, and how you, I guess, essentially went from like probably not quite that much volume to quite a lot of volume quite quickly. Like, how did the capacity of that and I guess the manufacturing arm of it, like how did you kind of change to work with you know, the increased distribution that you're having with retailers?
Yeah. So we initially were at the very beginning we were making it all ourselves, and then when we got investment, and we knew we wanted to kind of scale the business. We were speaking to retailers. When we got our first big listing, we made the decision to outsource our production, so that because at the time we felt we were best suited to focus on the kind of the marketing and the sales side, and then work closely with a manufacturer. I think actually building our own site would have been at the time very sort of a bit over our heads, to be honest. That's what we did, and that's how we've continued. We've worked with various different manufacturers over the years, and the one we're working with, we've been with for a few years now, and it's good because we just make it in small batches, so you get a much fresher tasting granola than if you were to do it in like a mass scale. We just make it to order, so we don't really have any waste, basically.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Which is really good. That's pretty much how we did it, really.
And with your first retailer, was it quite scary having like those meetings with was Waitrose your first retailer?
No, Sainsbury's actually.
Sainsbury's.
Yeah.
Was it quite scary having those conversations with them and thinking like, gosh, I started this as like thinking, oh, I really like cereal, and now I'm sat in Melbourne HQ.
It was. I did always feel like very like a bit of a kind of what's the word?
Like imposter syndrome.
Imposter, that's it. Because it wasn't a thing. It wasn't like we went into this being like, at the very beginning, we didn't say, right, we want a brand that's going to be in Sainsbury's. That wasn't our thinking, and it's all just happened really organically. So then when we were suddenly we found ourselves on Dragon's Den, then as soon as that happens, everything would just happen so quickly, and you're kind of just like treading water. So but I think that's a good thing, because it throws you in the deep end, and in life I think that's always a good thing, because you learn more quickly. But yeah, I think we've, you know, it's always a struggle to make things work in the best way possible. There's always challenges that come your way, especially working with the bigger retailers and as a smaller brand. But by and large, like, the buyers that we've worked with have been super supportive, and you know, they've got so much on their plate. So it's one of those things that Johnny describes it quite well. It's like a buyer is like a spotlight. It's like when the spotlight's on you, it's like go 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 go. You have to deliver, because they don't have long. And it's all about timing. That's the hardest thing, is because you can't control it, because you never know. I mean, they can give you like whenever they're going to look at the category and do a range review, but that's pretty much it. And it's very, as you know, like, just a lot of it is just sitting and waiting and praying.
It is a lot of that, isn't it? And at the start, it's so frustrating, because you're so passionate and excited about your product. You're just like, why are you not putting it on the shelf? I don't understand. And they're like, there's a process to this.
And it's like one person that decides, which is, I find, mental.
It is mental, considering like the distribution that you get from that one person. So like, you get what, 100% postcodes by one human being going, yes, we'll put it in. And that's like, you've now got 98% penetration of everybody bought it. That's crazy. Yeah, it's mental. It is so fascinating how, and actually within the UK, how it's quite a different market to, I haven't worked in for any other like brand in like not other than the UK, but I'm saying in a sense of like, America's such a big place that it's not just 4 or 5 retailers that determine your 100% distribution in the United Kingdom, you know? Whereas like in the States, you've got, it's almost like treating every single state as a country.
Are you guys in the States?
No. Well, we're not in the States.
Yeah. Okay. That's a whole other ball game.
Like, but that's what I mean. Like within England, you've got Tesco, Waitrose, Sainsbury's, Morris's, Asda. So that's 5 buyers, 5 people. Out of how many people in the UK? Millions, 68 plus, that will decide if those 68 million people can buy your product.
Yeah, it's crazy.
5 people. That is bizarre, isn't it?
It's mental. I always find that. I think that's the most mental thing.
Yeah.
It's like the one gatekeeper.
I'm looking at a very exciting product that I'm going to be talking about, which I think, although this podcast won't be, it won't be happening on the day that everybody's at home listening, but this is launched today in Ocado, which is amazing. And these 2 brands, they actually need some coconut collaborative with this, because then you'd have literally like the breakfast.
100%.
TBC. But yeah, Manny Life, obviously an amazing peanut butter brand. She's been on the podcast, fantastic. So yeah, talk to me about like your partnership side of stuff, and is that kind of the way that you want like your brand to, I guess, like go, and the stuff that you can do with granola and the partnerships you can have. The collaboration of 2 brands is fantastic, right?
Yeah. I mean, I think the main thing for us is we wanted to launch a peanut butter granola, but we wanted it had to taste amazing. And so
I actually, do you know what? I'm going to do a live taste test on camera.
Pressure.
It's obviously going to be insane. There's no way this is going to taste.
Yeah. So when we were coming up with how we were going to do the recipe, one of the big things for us is working more closely with our ingredient suppliers, and we decided to. What do you think?
So yum.
Good.
Crunchy, peanutty, like not too sweet. Just deliciousness. That is.
It's good with.
Chef's
it's also
kiss.
good with like. I just love it with milk, like like an almond milk or something like that. It's very nourish.
That is good. Oh, that's going places, that one.
Credit to Stu as well, because when we were developing it, he was like, it needs raisins. And we were like, really? Because we've always been a bit anti-raisins.
Yeah, it's been a bit of a love-hate thing.
Yeah, and then we put them in, we were like, oh yeah, you've nailed that.
Okay.
So yeah, the raisins are really good. But what was I going to say? Yeah, so we just wanted to make sure it was like, you know, the tastiest granola on the market, and so I, you know, I'm a big fan of Manny Life, as are most people that have tried it. And
yeah, for sure.
I mean, it's hands down the best peanut butter, and it's telling because, you know, they work directly with the farmers that grow the peanuts, and so that's something that's kind of very important to us as a brand as well. So that's why we kind of got in touch, and had obviously known the guys at Manny Life quite well already, and we managed to make it work. So we're really excited to get this onto the market.
Is it made at so obviously you guys have got your different production sites. Have you chosen one where we're going to make it here, we'll ship the granola to you, or we'll ship the peanut butter to you?
Yeah, so we make it in actually a different manufacturer to our current range.
Oh, okay. I guess, is that
just because they don't currently do peanuts
on site,
so
of course.
It's an allergen, obviously. And yeah, so they make it for us, and they ship the peanut butter to them. Yeah.
Oh, that is delicious.
Yeah.
That is so yummy.
Yeah.
I can see that doing really well, because it's nice to have the power of two brands.
Yeah, and also, it's a tasty product, but it's also a nice natural source of protein as well. So because obviously people are very inquisitive about what are the health benefits if I'm going to buy this, and so if anyone is interested in that, I would say that's the main one, and also it's not too high in sugar with all of our granolas, so we just use some date syrup in there.
Yeah, it's perfect.
And obviously the natural sugars from all the other ingredients.
It is just, honestly, that is 10 out of 10. I want that every single day for the rest of my life. And it's going to be my snack, and I'm going to have it on my work from home desk, and it's just going to be like this all day.
Amazing. And
then I would have eaten the whole pack by the end of the day. And it is actually the 8th of March today, which is International Women's Day.
Correct, yeah.
And obviously I know that you started it with a man, but as a female founder, have you come up against any challenges? Again, it's hard because obviously you did start it with Johnny, so it's quite difficult to differentiate what you might have been able to achieve without him or not achieve without him, etc. But as a female founder, have you come up against any challenges in the past?
There's been loads. There's loads.
Really?
Loads of challenges. Yeah. Building a business, but for anyone.
No, sorry, building a business, yes, but as in I'm thinking as a particular female founder.
Oh right. Yeah, I guess things I don't know whether this is to do with an age thing as well, because Johnny is a lot older than me. Sorry, that sounds very.
He's Asian.
Sorry, Johnny. As in, there's a big age gap between us, and so I do find that whenever we would go to meetings where I'd be the only female and be sat around a boardroom, in a boardroom meeting where it's just all white men, you do kind of get looked at as a bit of a nobody, and they kind of direct the conversation to Johnny, sort of thing. So things like that, but I mean, ultimately, I don't think I've felt it's not been that bad.
Yeah, and food I think it's been relatively I think it's quite equal.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say I've really ever come across anything. A couple of times I think men have tried to make me feel quite silly. And they're especially if it's to do with something to do with numbers, they're a bit more she won't get it, she doesn't read. And actually, I do know what you're talking about, and that's a bit annoying. Yeah. That's probably the one thing I've had
the assumption that
the assumption that because it's financial, let's just best leave it. And I'm you can tell me, I will probably hopefully know the answer. Know your numbers and stuff. So that's the only thing I'd say I've come across is they just don't think you know.
Yeah.
But generally, no, I think
don't give you the kind of time of day.
A little bit,
Yeah.
But no, I think food is, I said, very equal, and there's lots of lovely loads of amazing people that we work with day-to-day basis.
Yeah, there are so many, and and nowadays there's so many amazing platforms for female founders that I've been a part of, and there's loads more support for so for example, I know that Whole Foods have done a whole kind of
built by women,
built by women, built sort of front display, and
that was amazing. Actually, I remember seeing it. I saw it on LinkedIn a couple of days ago, and I was like, Wow, that's loads of brands that I probably didn't think were necessarily female led.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but yeah, I think to be honest, like it is helpful being in a partnership, and I do take my hat off to women sole female founders, because I just take my hat off to them, because that is a no mean feat, to be honest. And because that generally speaking, I think as a founder, it's one of those things where you have to be good at everything, and especially as a female founder, I think the main thing is just it's having the confidence. I think I've had my confidence knocked so many times in building Spoon, and just men don't really get that at all. I think that would be sort of the main thing. And yeah, so I think it's just about for younger women out there, it's just it's hard, isn't it? Because nowadays anxiety levels have gone up so high, and so I don't know if it's actually getting any better.
It's the pressure as well,
building women's confidence. I just think that's the main thing. Which is easier said than done, right?
Yeah, massively. I think confidence is such a gift. If you're gifted with confidence, and you can have that no self-doubt filter, then that's phenomenal. You are so lucky, because so many people struggle with that.
Yeah.
But I think there's also this pressure that's put on society generally, and especially now that I feel it a bit, and obviously I am lucky that I do have a side hustle because I've got my podcast, which is obviously why we're here today. But there is a lot of pressure to just do more than your day job, and because you're a woman, but also the double standards of having your day job, having your side hustle. Oh, but you want to be a mum and you got to be soft, but don't be too soft, because you need to be hard and you need to be career driven, and you need to cook an amazing supper, but also have this kebab with me. Oh, but eat healthy and go to what? There's so much of that nowadays that I think is quite for women especially, we're navigating so much change, and I think it's probably also really confusing for men, because they're probably thinking, gosh, women are getting quite a lot stronger, which in all fairness they're not really used to. We haven't had that stance on society in such a long time, so I think it'll be really interesting to see the way it goes, and I think we will see the rise of female founders and the backing that is going to happen and going to get. I think it's going to be amazing, and I think it's going to be so exciting, because I think there's so much coming that we just haven't really got under the skin of it yet. And obviously you were a female starting then, and now it's what can we do now? If you were starting it now, the difference in the support that you probably would have, all these definitely. That you said, all those groups that you've been able to join.
Yeah, exactly. And also more people signing up to become B Corp, where you're kind of you're being held accountable to doing the right thing for your team, and within that could be something to do with supporting women within your team, and creating a more diverse team, and giving your team more flexibility, that kind of thing. And that's actually something that we're hopefully going to become certified this year. So it's something we're working on at the moment.
Amazing.
So it's a bit of it's great, because it's always something that we've spoken about, but it's a really good way of kind of, as I said, holding up, just G'ing up the team as well. But ultimately, in answer to that question, I do feel quite lucky in the sense that I've always with Spoon, I've always had the flexibility. I had a baby in September 2022, and that was pretty plain sailing. Just had a nice little maternity leave, and was able to work kind of quite flexibly going back. So, but I've I hear horror stories with women in other industries. So I think for me personally, I just feel quite lucky, and I've also got a very supportive partner who's got his own business as well, so he sort of gets it as well. We're very even in terms of
power couple,
childcare. So I am probably the anomaly, because I know that it's not easy for everyone.
Yeah. What are some major milestones that you've hit at Spoon that you're tick box, that was so cool, I'm so feel so proud of that?
So probably going back to Dragon's Den,
just
because it was just such a mad time, and just something that I never in my wildest dreams dreamt of doing. So I think that would probably be the big one for us, just in terms of like how I felt, but also the kind of buzz that was surrounding us at the time, and just also the way it was the kind of turning point for the business. And I don't know, it's interesting. I wonder what would have happened. You can't think in hindsight, but I do wonder, like, what would have happened if we hadn't have gone to Dragon's Den? Like, what route would we have taken? But you never know. So
yeah, it is funny when you look back at what you've been able to achieve, and then think, God, if that hadn't happened that day, or if I hadn't met that person at that show, or if I hadn't engaged in that conversation, if I hadn't sent you that email, like, it's so many things that, like, it's really interesting. Yeah. But you're here today with fantastic products.
Talking on the amazing podcast.
I know, it's fun. It's really good fun. It is good fun. I'm very lucky. I love it. Community is like a big thing going forward into like 2024, and I think there are so many brands out there that are trying to build like a really good community and get their, keep really close to their customers and get the feedback. How would you say that at Spoon you kind of engage with your community and then like listen to your customers? As you said, you're very customer led. So how do you kind of like do that whole circle piece of being like, picked up, internal chats, changes?
Quite simply, really, we just like through email. We get a lot of people just emailing us directly, but then we have our newsletter, obviously, so we've kind of built up a community that way. And then social media is obviously an extremely helpful tool to be able to communicate. So whenever we get feedback, we have someone that monitors all of our customer service, and we have like a spreadsheet that has all of the feedback, positive and negative. Whenever something, like if anything does, so you get, because every brand will get complaints every now and again, but we're like on it straight away. And we're always trying to improve. So any feedback we get, we incorporate it into our NPD process, and do it through, whether it be through surveys, or we also do like anecdotal feedback as well. So it's kind of just, it's quite fluid, but it's really helpful because they do go, and it's nice when you get feedback that's, we get some people who've been following us from like day one, and they're like, I was there when you were serving granola balls in Old Street Station, and I still buy a product.
I'm an OG.
And then we get those kind of people, and we get people that have just tried it, and they're like, oh my God, this is incredible, you've like changed my life. And you're like, when you get stuff like that, it's really, really rewarding. So and then you get more constructive criticism and stuff like that. So it is very instrumental in like how we develop our products.
With the partnership stuff, so the stuff that you're doing with Manny Life, you should definitely do like a breakfast club. Like, I'd love to come to like a morning sponsored by like Spoon and Manny Life, and just do like this big breakfast and host it in the city somewhere, and just like
do an event.
Oh yeah, I'm all for an event. Like I do love an event.
It's definitely key is like getting it out there and getting in front of people, and that's like
the people that email in all the time. Like, if you've got your 10 best customers, be like, right, come in the office. There's a lot of breakfast. Like, who are you? Like, that would be. I'd love to do that.
100%. Definitely. And like we definitely want to be doing lots of trade shows this year. So getting in front of people that way. Is a good one.
Yeah, trade shows.
Consumer shows as well.
Yeah, consumer shows are great, aren't they? Because you get to talk to the customer in abundance. Like, they're coming up to you, they're saying what they love and saying what they don't like, and they're really honest. Don't get me wrong. I've done so many consumer shows, and obviously coconut yogurt, it's heavily coconut flavoured, and if you don't like coconut, you're not going to like our yogurt. And sometimes people, believe it or not, don't see the coconut, they just see yogurt.
Yeah.
And they try it and they're like, right in front of me, and I'm like, okay, if I didn't like something, I probably wouldn't be as they're very honest, basically, which I rate. I'm like, fair enough, be as honest, but sometimes it's quite funny to like see them being like, this is disgusting, what is this? And you're like, all right, well, we turn over a fair bit, so some people do like it.
Yeah. Not for everyone.
No.
Yeah, no, definitely. And the other thing is just like we have a field salesperson and that I feel like that's a really good way of just gaining feedback, not just from your consumers, but from your customers as well.
Yeah.
Because they're very important to us as well. So having feet on the ground is super important.
Yeah, massively. And I remember when I was selling granola, the Spoon, this exact one, way back when, this was always the one that was the favoured, and the feedback that I got from that was like, I need it in a bigger bag. Can you sell it to me in massive bags, because I want to use this in my cafes and food service and back of house stuff.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, the feedback was amazing with the customers I used to get. It was so fun. I had the best time. I'd be like running around London being like, the granola, so much energy then as well.
Yeah, I'm glad that you took, because that was me. I had to do that at the beginning, and I just was so knackered, but afterwards that I was like,
I was clocking like 25,000 steps a day.
I was doing it.
Yeah, it's quite rare to find, I think, someone that loves it.
It's knackering, yeah.
It is exhausting.
It is rewarding when you speak directly, but it is, just traipsing around London.
And the samples,
especially these size packs. It's not like little sample packs that you can just
I had an actual grandma trolley
Yeah.
full of granola.
Not very sexy.
No, I was this unsexy, like 20, whatever I was back then, like walking around London being like, I've got granola in my bag, like, cool.
Yeah.
Where do you see like the future of Spoon going? Like, obviously you've mentioned about your partnerships, but how are you thinking about diversifying, and if that's even in the pipeline, or is it, as you said, like export when we spoke about earlier?
Yeah, so we've got big plans. So obviously we have granola.
Yeah.
And we're really happy with kind of how we've managed to position it. And so we'll always be launching new flavours within the range. So obviously this Manny Life being the first this year to launch. We have got a lot of other exciting flavours in the pipeline, and that has been steered by kind of consumer feedback. It's been steered by looking at the trends, the health and wellness trends, and how we can tap into some of those. And the other thing that we're working on at the moment is something with the Ellen MacArthur Foundation.
Okay.
They've launched this thing called the Big Food Redesign Challenge, which is a bit of a mouthful, but essentially it's inspiring food brands to create a product that applies the principles of the circular economy to their product. And with that, we are launching a product that is using those principles, and we're through to the production stage of that, so that's really exciting. And
that's amazing.
We recently did a visit to a farm. It's an oat farm that we're working with, and they are all about kind of implementing regenerative farming practices into all of their into their farming practices. And so we're learning lots basically through this process, and I'm really excited about that product. Watch the space, because we'll kind of be sharing the story of how we launched that product into hopefully Waitrose. And then so that's one project that's kind of slightly separate. Launching in more flavours within granola. We have been working on branching out into the wider cereal category, and you may have seen, because we've been quite sort of open about it, we haven't really kept our cards close, but we've got a new range of family cereals that we've been working on.
I did see, and I didn't know whether, I didn't want to bring it up in case you didn't want to talk about it, but now you've said it.
Yeah. I think we've just made that, it's out now, so we've sort of just said, let's just share, and we're really excited by it. When we first came up with the idea, we just wanted to make sure that it was a product that was better in terms of health profile, against everything that was on the market. So it had to be a healthier product, and it had to tick all the boxes in terms of sugar levels. It's got a source of protein. We're using diverse grains. It's fortified with vitamins and minerals, so it's geared towards a family, so young families, and also importantly, we want to set it at an affordable price point. So it's sort of basically ready to go. We're just waiting for someone to pounce on it. You're
in conversations with lots of
we've been speaking to lots of people, so hopefully this year, fingers crossed.
Exciting. And then how do you manage like the export? You said obviously before we started the podcast, I'm interested to understand how Spoon, like which areas of the world does it do really well in other than the UK?
So we only export to Switzerland at the moment.
Okay.
We're in a supermarket out there called Migros, who are like first class sort of standard in terms of retailers out there. So I think they're like the kind of Waitrose.
I was going to say the Waitrose,
Switzerland. So really happy to be there, because on a personal level, I used to go and shop in Migros the whole time, because as a family we used to go out to Switzerland, and it was actually
this is a bit of a random story, but we had when we used to go skiing quite a bit, and we had a ski instructor, Swedish ski instructor, who used to make granola, and I remember him sharing his granola recipe with me. And,
no way.
Yeah, and so we still stay in touch with him. So yeah, I think that's a little it's just a nice thing to be in Migros and in Switzerland. So it's going really well, but there's definitely untapped opportunity for us within Europe. Granola muesli out there is huge, and so that's something that we're definitely going to be looking into, and then looking into different categories within breakfast is a big one for us. Different formats, so as you mentioned earlier about bulk formats, moving into full food service, that kind of thing is definitely on the agenda for us.
Exciting. So
loads of stuff to go after. So it's fun being at Spoon. It's very busy, but exciting.
And also being such a lean team means that you can be really reactive to stuff, and also really you can change things quickly. It's not like you're working at a big
super reactive.
as
you know.
Well, it's kind of startup life, isn't it?
Yeah.
But it's also exciting because it means that you can be you can change quickly, whereas I think when you're in a big corporate where there's lots of red tape, it's it can take you months to get a yes, whereas you could wake up tomorrow and go, I want to do this, and generally be like, okay.
Yeah.
Obviously it doesn't quite work like that, but generally speaking, there's less hurdles you need to jump through, which is quite nice, and it makes your life more exciting and the stuff you can get involved with.
Definitely, 100%.
So to close the interview, I have some quick fire closing round questions.
Oh wow, okay.
I know, I don't tell you these are coming because then you can just think on the spot.
Yeah.
Favourite product that you have created?
Oh, it's hard because now it's between cinnamon and Manny Life. Let's go cinnamon because that's signature for now.
Best or favourite food brand out there at the moment?
Oh gosh, favourite food brand. Let's say Manny Life. I
Why?
eat a lot of Manny Life.
I
just love it. I'm addicted to it.
Yeah, it is
I
like
literally
crack
need to buy it.
cocaine.
I have to kind of stop myself from buying it.
Spoon out the jar.
Yeah.
Is this a Manny Life podcast? I feel like Stu's sponsoring this episode.
Can I have some credit?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Your biggest failure?
We tried to launch. This is off my head. We tried to launch a yogurt pot where you were with us.
Yeah.
And for whatever reason, it just didn't work. So that would probably be one of our biggest failures.
So what did you learn from that?
What did we learn? I think we learned that it was in sort of collaboration with another yogurt brand, and unfortunately that brand no longer exists. So
oh really?
I think it was maybe too small for a brand to be working with, even though the product was first class.
It was delicious. Yeah, it was amazing.
Skyr yogurt.
It was fantastic.
And it was all made. It was at farm level and stuff like that. So, never say never to maybe looking into that again, but doing it taking our learnings on board and seeing what happens.
Biggest a piece of advice that you would give to someone that's maybe sat at home thinking, listening to this, gosh, I really want to start something. What would you say to them?
Biggest advice. So I would say make sure your product is the best it can possibly be. And I know that sounds really basic and obvious, but I think that it makes your life just so much easier if you've got a good product. And you don't have to spend as much money on marketing because the product kind of sells itself. As soon as someone tries it, they're going to re-buy it. We have really, really strong repeat rates on our granola, and so that's if you can get that, that's amazing, because then you can afford to spend more marketing spend on kind of awareness driving, and you'll know that you'll get that return on investment. Make sure that your product is good, and always keep trying. We're always trying to improve it. We're not perfect. So constantly trying to improve, and don't worry too much about just launching it and seeing what happens, but make sure that you've got as much kind of information from your customers as well. Sorry, this is more than one thing, isn't it?
It's fine, you keep going.
I think two things. So product, and then make sure that you get it out in front of your target audience. and yeah, get out there. Don't be shy to kind of speak to people, and take on criticism, and try and continually tweak as you go.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting what you said then about that you've got a really high repeat rate, and I think cereal is such a habitual purchase. Like, I know with my breakfast, it's not like my dinner. Like, I don't have the same thing for dinner every night, whereas like my breakfast, I do have it. Like what I like to eat in the morning is pretty similar. Like most, I mean,
Yes.
I have a whole pot of yogurt in the office every day.
People are quite kind of samey in the morning.
Yeah, so it's quite interesting actually. Like, if you can get this right, you are it's a nice market you can like tap into, right? Yeah.
Exactly.
And favourite starter, main, and dessert.
Ooh, okay. So whenever I've been asked this question, I always go Italian.
Okay.
So it would be literally all Italian. So I'd go like a little kind of pasta starter, like freshly made. I don't know. I'm not fussy about the sauce. Maybe something just very simple, but like some sort of. What's the one with the filling inside?
Rigatoni.
No.
Oh, ravioli.
Ravioli.
Yeah,
Something like that, but just like olive oil, but just really good quality pasta. A bit of salt and pepper, and then I would go for a pizza for me. All the carbs.
Yeah, delicious.
And then for pudding, I would have like a tiramisu.
Oh, okay, similar to my last guest.
Oh, really?
Tiramisu as well.
Yeah.
It is delicious. Have you tried the Angela Hartley one?
No.
It's James. Just go.
Oh my God.
Like
Who?
Angela Hartley. Oh my god, amazing chef. But she's got a restaurant in St James.
Oh, really? Okay.
Like, I can't remember the name. Oh, begins with an M. Oh my goodness! Like, her restaurant is just phenomenal, and it's
Really?
Italian. And if you like that kind of food,
Okay.
you've got to try it.
Okay.
Shout out to her if she wants to come on the
Nice.
pod. Maybe one day.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Annie, for coming on
Thanks
Getting
for
to Grow.
having me.
It's been such a special episode, as I said. So yeah, fantastic to have you on and learn, sit down and like talk about it, because I guess we've never really done this when I was working there.
No, it's been too long.
So yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.